Minnesota Renaissance Festival is happening now through September 29th, and we've got your chance to win tickets. Head over our contest page for your chance to win today. KFAN.com keyword contest center.
Guiding the great ship Love Covenant from FM 100.3 KFAN and the 651 Carpets Plus studios. PA in charge, feasting into our 15th year, feasting on the fan, started in 09, the Favre year, and here we are, Buffalo Wild Wings, Coon Rapids. And Alec Lewis from The Athletic and TheAthletic.com is here for a final segment. And about 30 minutes from now, a little less than 30 minutes from now, we're giving away those Vikings tickets. So if you registered, the 8 tickets for pair are going to be coming your way a couple of breaks from now.
They got to be here to win.
Got to be here to win. David Sinykin at TC Head Cheese. He'll be here about 20 minutes from now. Charchie, take it away.
We were talking last segment, Alec, about Justin Jefferson. Let's talk about the other receivers. I want to start here. Jalen Naylor has been good, and he has got some uncanny abilities to get open that we didn't know for sure we were going to get. They needed him to get extended run in these 3 games, and all he's done is score touchdowns in all 3 games.
I mean, he's looked like a legit number 2 receiver, hasn't he?
Yes.
I mean, if you talk to anybody internally, and this is going back to last spring, I'm talking spring 2023, you talk to coaching staff, teammates, everybody believed in this guy. They all thought Jalen Naylor could be a really productive player who could separate, who would be willing to stick his hat in the run, but he just was never healthy. And he hasn't been healthy going back to college. I mean, that was part of the reason why he fell to the 6th round. His combine metrics are great. The production at Michigan State alongside Jaden Reed, who we're going to see this weekend. Kenneth Walker was on that Michigan State team.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an exceptional player. He just had not had a string of health, and now he has. And again, for him to step up and look like a legit number 2, and then you're going to get Jordan Addison back this weekend. So you really have 2 high. I mean, Jordan Addison you could argue that he's like a number 1 to have alongside Justin Jefferson, and then potentially getting TJ Hawkinson back in a few weeks. I mean, and having Aaron Jones, I keep going, but it's like, again, I said earlier this week on my podcast, this whole thing has kind of broken my brain in terms of how much depth they have, which I don't know if I believe they really did before the season.
All right, so let's talk about how you handle Addison and Naylor now going forward. And by the way, I believe because Naylor's been so good, you don't push back. Addison's if he's playing, he's got to be near 100%. There's no reason to rush back Addison when you're 3-0 and Naylor's taking your reps and doing just fine. So I assume Addison's is healthy. Talk to me about how you feel like they're going to deploy these guys now that Naylor's earned additional time, and Addison obviously entered the season as your number 2. So what do you think the deployment looks like now and the usage looks like?
Probably more 11 personnel than they would have planned prior to the season. And Kevin O'Connell hails from a system that utilized a lot of 11 personnel, so it's not like they have to dip in some deep bag to go find that type of stuff. But between how good Jalen Naylor looks and then how efficient, on time, in rhythm, accurate Sam Darnold has looked, it makes sense to me to use more 3 wide receiver sets on early downs than probably they had planned originally this season. And you're right in talking about Addison. They were not going to rush him back from the get-go, especially sitting here at 3-0.
Right.
There's no reason to do that. So he is healthy. I watched him out there yesterday. He looks good. He's confident
on the ankle.
He was confident in the locker room. We talked to him yesterday. So yeah, I expect more 3 receiver sets and more of Naylor, Addison, and Justin Jefferson than originally I would have thought this year. And if I'm Jeff Hafley, the Packers defensive coordinator, it's a hard challenge to kind of figure out how you stop those guys with numbers in the secondary while also limiting Aaron Jones, who is second in the NFL right now in yards after contact. So it is a pick your poison type of vibe offensively, really, legitimately, like no hyperbole about it.
Paul brought up a great point earlier in the show. If you're going to do 3 receiver sets, who's going to be in the slot? Naylor's a pretty pure outside guy. Addison's generally been outside. Paul was suggesting we might see a lot more Justin Jefferson in the slot because that's not a Jair Alexander spot. And that's not where he's comfortable playing. And I don't think he would track Jefferson there. And that could be something we see in this game that I find fascinating.
They can all play in the slot because they've all marinated in this system. They all, like, one of the positives, the praise that coaches would provide about Jalen Naylor was he could play the X, which is typically Justin Jefferson's spot.
Yep.
He could play the Z, which when Adam Thielen was here, that was his spot. Last year it was Jordan Addison's spot. But they can all play interchangeably, which it complicates things even further. And so, again, I mentioned this just now, but Aaron Jones' ability to run the ball, to me, it has made everything feel so much easier, so much more dynamic. And there is so much right now at this offense's disposal that, on early downs, I think right now they're averaging like 6.5 yards a play on first and second down.
We'll take that.
Which is top 5 in the NFL right now. And when you're doing that, you keep Sam Darnold out of really tough situations. You have the ability to run, pass, use play action.
Yep.
And so, could Justin Jefferson play in the slot? Of course. And could he torch the Packers defense in the slot? Yes. But I think Jordan Addison could too, and Jalen Naylor. Again, the Jalen Naylor emergence was kind of, you know how last year we would talk about, well, Justin's out, so Jordan Addison has to play.
Right.
And it's great for him to get the experience and the touches and feel like the number one guy. Well, I kind of feel like Jordan Addison being out these last couple weeks has helped Jalen Naylor elevate into a place that originally people thought he would elevate, but to see it actually happen, it's a boon for this offense.
There's so many good stories about this 3-0 start, and Naylor's for sure one of them that nobody saw coming. I don't think. I mean, not to the degree that it's been.
I mean, the staff did. I will tell you. I could go back in my phone to text messages with coaches where it's like, yeah, we believe in this guy. Alec, you're writing about what they're going to do at receiver number 3.
Yeah.
We believe that just Jalen Naylor can be the guy if he stays healthy. But you're right about the storyline. We have barely talked about Brian Flores' defense, like legitimately, and it is right now the best defense in the NFL. And what they're doing is the talk of the NFL, as it should be, because they have constructed a defense with a selfless group of personnel and a versatile group of personnel that should be celebrated here locally for how good it's been.
Right. All right. I want to talk about the area of the Vikings defense that worries me the most. And it's the cornerbacks specifically and just pure pass coverage. And by the way Brian Flores is working his individual matchups and his schemes, baffling for me as fantasy guy, trying to think about like, okay, who's going to be on Christian Watson? Who's going to be on Romeo Doubs? Well, I don't know, because it's really hard. He uses so many different players so many different ways.
But they don't. They're while Griffin, who did nothing in the offseason, joined a month and change ago. Griffin with the team in the offseason. He gets hurt during training camp, misses preseason.
Yeah.
It's when you sack the quarterback 16 times and you hit them markedly more, and then what they see on film, they're trying to get rid of stuff quickly and or intermediately. It's permitted Gilmore and Griffin the opportunity to run themselves into shape because the pass rush is so good, quarterbacks can't get over the top.
Here's the funny thing. Like, between last year and this year, one of the comments that Brian Flores, that even Kevin O'Connell made, was like, we're going to run more man coverage. And we've got these they're not running man coverage. They're not doing it. They're running quarters, which is each defensive back occupying a fourth of the field, and they're doing it to cut crossers, which ended up which is how they were getting beat last year.
It was.
So it is kind of the response to how they were getting beat last year. So what are teams going to do? I don't know, but however they try to beat quarters, it probably plays into how you play Tampa too. So they kind of have you in a blender. And while you're trying to figure out what coverage they're playing and why they're rushing 5 and leaving 2 guys in the middle of the field somehow, the pass rush is they are. I give a lot of credit to Mike Pettin, who's the outside linebackers coach, Mike Saravo, and those guys, because from a pass rush plan, they have attacked these protections as good as anybody in the NFL is doing it, and they're also smart in how they're rushing the passer. Last week, one of their big strategies was do not let C.J. Stroud roll out of the right side of the pocket, and he didn't do it. And so they have not only identified how many guys they're sending, but when we send pressure, here's how we want you guys to rush, and the players are selfless enough to do it. And it's just everything is so intentional. I've used that word like 1,000 million times since I've come on the radio with you this year. But really, like in the NFL, a lot of coaches just run what they run, and there's no like real why. And I'd say offensively and defensively right now, with how Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores have organized this thing, everything has a reason, and whether it works or not, I think the players can feel very confident in the fact that what they're doing serves a direct purpose, regardless of what the result ends up being.
All right, now I'm going to throw a little bit of cold water on everything you're saying.
Go.
Give you some statistical data dumps on this. Are the outside cornerbacks, presumably outside, and by the way, they move these cornerbacks around a lot. Gilmore and Shaq Griffin giving up a 71% catch rate. It's not a disaster, but it's also not great. Byron Murphy specifically has allowed the second most receiving yards of any player in the NFL. 208 receiving yards so far in his coverage. So I feel like there's still the cornerback position. So back to how I set up this question originally. If you want me to find an area that needs to get better for the Vikings, I feel like it's the cornerback play specifically. And obviously a lot of things are going well, but I can point to some of these metrics and go, these are areas where this team can still get better defensively.
That's fair. But the one thing I will say in response to that is it is not just man coverage. It's not like Byron Murphy is just lining up and giving up yards that way. So a lot of those yards, I would assume, and I don't know these metrics, so I could be totally wrong and might sound like an idiot, but a lot of it is, Byron was probably the closest defender to a ball that was dispersed into an open space. And, that's the thing I will say about this defense. If you rewatch the film, there is open space in a lot of places. The problem is it's hard for these quarterbacks to find that open space because they're trying to sort through, are guys coming? Are guys dropping? My vision is blurry because there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot on their mind. And that's really the beauty of this system. It's not like every area of grass on the field is locked down. It's not. There's a lot of open space, but there's so much pressure on the quarterback's mind that they don't feel the amount of open space that actually exists. So it is I compared it weeks ago to an optical illusion, but it really is. And now at some point, is a quarterback going to just dump the ball down in the flat and the offense going to matriculate the ball up the field? Probably. And maybe it's this weekend with how creative Matt LaFleur and them get. But ultimately, they are not giving up big-time 60-yard plays. And that, you know this, Charge, as good as anybody. The two statistics that lead to winning are turnovers and explosive plays.
Yep.
Can you create turnovers and prevent them? Can you create explosive plays and limit them? And they've done a good job of that on every side of the ball thus far, and that's why they're 3-0.
You touched on Aaron Jones, and I want to just drill down on this a little bit. The running game, so much better this year than last year. And not to take anything, I'm not trying to do any cheap shots on Alexander Madison. He had a lot of limitations as a runner. We saw Ty Chandler at the end of the year finally start to get into that mix. Chandler, by the way, quietly had a pretty nice season as well. But Jones in this offense feels so much more effective, unpredictable. I feel like he's bringing so many more and different things to the table than what we were getting. Why don't you expand for just a minute on what you like about what Aaron Jones has done so far?
I'll expand. Everything.
Yeah.
They lined him up last week in the red zone as a receiver, and he ran a mesh pattern and caught the pass seamlessly and fell into the end zone. I could praise this guy for hours in terms of what he's allowed them to do on the field, but also internally. Like, if you were to talk to certain players in the locker room, Dalvin Cook did have a pretty big voice and command a lot of respect in the locker room.
Yeah.
So when he left, I'd say offensively, there was in some ways a little bit of like a void in that aspect, and Aaron Jones has filled that void. But on the field, I wrote this stat in my story today. I believe he's averaging, or his fastest miles per hour run this year is like 19.9 miles per hour.
That's not bad.
Which is like the 7th fastest among all running backs. So at his age, it's not as if he's slowed down. And his vision is phenomenal. His stiff arm is great. He gets the yards that are there for him to get, and he creates extra yards and falls forward. Just everything this guy has brought to this offense. They had the offseason signings that they've had. Defensively, like, I don't need a rehash. You guys have talked about it for hours. Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, all these guys fit so well. But I'm not sure if there is a signing that has been more impactful, both in terms of how it allows the offense to play and how it kind of has just amplified the locker room confidence level than Aaron Jones. It is. And he is motivated now. Like, you listen to his press conference against the Packers, or before this game against the Packers, he treats it like he's all nice, Mr. Nice Guy, but he wants to stick it to this team. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, what do you have coming up at The Athletic or theathletic.com today or this weekend?
I've got a preview with John Krasinski that we do every week. I'll have that tomorrow, but just looking forward to this game. And it's so, because the fans listening right now on the radio and here in Coon Rapids are so engaged in the week to week. Like, I've had a lot of fun just analyzing just all these games. So it's been a blast, and always fun to chat with you guys.
And you're very good at it. Hey, Alec Lewis, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for coming out here to Buffalo Wild Wings, Coon Rapids, to analyze football for KFAN. David Sinykin, Packer Preview. He's on air, on site, on demand, and on fire around the corner. And we're about 15 minutes away from giving away those Vikings-Falcons tickets, so don't leave. Back after this.
Second down, they fake the handoff to Milton, dumps it off. So Wilson, left side, he's barreling his way to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, to the end zone. Touchdown! And the Packers cash it in. 26-7 Green Bay, 8:25 to go in the third. I don't want to play. I just want to bang on the come all day. Ever since I was a tiny boy, I don't want no candy. I don't need a toy. I took a stick and
Hey, we caught the Sultan of Smug off guard. He was sitting in his car waiting for us to go to break. It's FM 100.3 KFAN, so therefore sometimes during the year the breaks can be a little longer than usual. Hey, we caught you off guard with that short break, didn't we? my man's rolling in with a sweet Charles Woodson. It's rolling in with a sweet
there
Charles.
He is.
It's a Charles Woodson.
There he is.
I can't oh, hey. I got to put this on video so I can put it out there on Twitter, and maybe you can retweet it, help him get some followers. There you go. What's going on, Sultan of Smug? Yep, it's a Woodson. David Sinykin, ladies and gentlemen. David Sinykin, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't boo him, we're not giving away the tickets. Come on in here, Davey. At TC Head Cheese via Twitter. He hosts Packer Preview and joins George truly for the border battle each and every Monday, 9 to noon, and has done so for many, many, many years. This is my brother at heart, but like brothers, we'll squabble when it comes to, we'll verbally squabble when it comes to a border battle. Green Bay's favored in this game by 2.5 points. I mean, favorites always win, right? I mean, they must be the better team, and good morning.
What's up, guys? Hey, everybody. Great to be here. It's awfully nice to see this shade of purple. The purple haze is thick on this late September Friday. Yeah, the Packers,
and that's just coming out of the window of your car.
That's true, too. Packers should be favored. They're at home.
Yeah.
They're a better roster, top to bottom.
Nope.
And they will prove it on Sunday against your fun little squad that's off to a surprising start for sure.
Notice how he didn't dispute the roster thing, but we don't have time to dispute petty things like that. 26 penalties. 4 holdings on the left tackle, number 1 in the NFL, tops in the NFL. 3 defensive holdings, second most in the NFL. The 26 penalties, 4th most in the NFL. Why you got to cheat to win these games, man?
Why are the refs against us all the time? That's my question.
That's a good one.
Yeah, penalties have been
You're
a
not
problem.
used to that, are you?
Yeah,
Like,
no, not
what
at
is
all.
this thing? A penalty?
Yeah, I thought usually
Only
refs
the other
were in our
team gets the
pocket.
penalty.
That's right. We always
Oh,
get the
yeah.
short end.
Well, you got Bill Vinovich this weekend, and they are very high on defensive pass interference and holding. So, Jair, welcome in. The water's warm.
Yeah, penalties have been an issue, but you're also dealing with a young quarterback that's been in the house for like 3 weeks. So the offense is still trying to figure things out with Willis. That's why I think a lot of the penalties have happened. They have to clean that up, and as I've heard you guys talking about, they have to get better in the red zone. Again, a function of not having their preferred quarterback
Yes.
out there.
Yeah.
And even the first game against Philly, they hadn't been in the preseason at all. They hadn't even played yet. So I expected some messiness. You guys talked about red zone issues, which has been a problem from the beginning of the season. Remember, they picked off Hurts, and they got a fumble.
Yeah.
2 quick turnovers, and they settled for field goals right away. That was the start of it. And now with Willis, as you can expect, they haven't practiced a lot of red zone with Willis yet. So, look, you guys are getting Green Bay, I think, at a perfect time for you. Questions at quarterback.
Really?
If Love's back, is he 100%? New defense still figuring things out.
Yep.
6 weeks from now, Green Bay's offense is going to be more in rhythm. The defense is going to understand better.
Yeah.
This team will be better in November, but that doesn't stop the fact that this is the only division game Green Bay plays for a while, and it's obviously a really important one.
And I'm glad you said that about the defense. I brought it up Tuesday with O'Connell, and we've talked about it a little bit today. Rashawn Gary is off to a slow start when it comes to left defensive end, hand in the grass. When they stand him up, Will Levis is running for his life. Anthony Richardson is running for his life because that's what he's incredibly good at. And I did a FISA, Fairness and Sultan of Smug Act, conceded that I had a bad read on Rashawn Gary for a little while.
As did I.
And he's a game wrecker. I mean, he is an absolute unbelievably strong beast. And, I had to learn a lot more about him from Mike Pettin, who coached him, before I really knew the nuance of what he does well. So, whatever. All right, 3-2. But the transition, like Preston Smith, right defensive end, hand in the grass, it's working. I mean, he I don't know if he's done it before. He's just like, it's more natural. With Gary, it's just not natural yet. I wonder how much they're going to do of that.
I think it's getting better. He was excited about it when the switch came to put his hand back in the dirt again. And as I heard young Alec talking about, they are rotating in Lucas Van Ness, J.J. Enigbare, and...
Edgerrin Cooper is nice.
Yeah, he is going to be what we wanted Quay Walker to be.
Yeah.
He's going to be a stud on this defense. I remember when the draft happened, Louis Riddick, he was his favorite defensive player. He's like, this guy will be the best linebacker in football in 5 years. I mean, he was a big believer in Edgerrin Cooper. He's been hurt throughout preseason. He hasn't played a lot.
Second round Texas A&M.
Yeah, exactly. He just hasn't gotten a lot of run yet because he's been banged up. But when he's on the field, you notice it. And with all these newcomers on the defense, rookie Javon Bullard, another second-round pick, has strengthened that safety spot next to Xavier McKinney. This defense is coming. It's not where it wants to be yet, but they're taking the ball away to match some of their shortcomings. If they can stop the run Sunday, and I think that's going to be key for both teams.
Agreed.
If Green Bay can stop or slow Aaron Jones, then it's going to be tough for Sam Darnold to make big plays.
All right, talk to me about Aaron Jones. I've talked to a lot of Packer fans about him ultimately leaving, not of his volition. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to play out the last year of his deal, right?
Yeah, well, he was due $12 million. He would have been $17 million on the cap this year, which is for a 29-year-old running back. That's what happens in the NFL. You got to make tough decisions, and they cut his offer down to like $6 million with incentives. And he said, "Well, I can get that anywhere, maybe more. I'll go somewhere else."
Right. I didn't get a lot more from the Vikings.
No, $7 million for a guy that he does miss some time. Like, enjoy it now, and I hope he stays healthy. He's one of my all-time favorite Packers. I've said that for years. He always will be. I don't want him to get hurt. But he does tend to break down a bit, and I think the Vikes are using him smartly with Chandler and getting the most out of him. But when he's 29 and he's injury-prone and he's due $17 million on the cap, that's a recipe for time to go.
Hey, because he came to Buffalo Wild Wings Coon Rapids, and he's helping with the Friday Football Feast, and he's a longstanding member of the Love Covenant. Round of applause for Dave Sinykin, please, ladies. I mean, it's all fun and games until somebody gets an
It's a reluctant applause, I would say.
All right, we pause. More on the game in the final segment around the corner, but Buffalo Wild Wings Coon Rapids, during this break, we're giving away those Vikings-Falcons tickets, so listen closely. You're listening to FM 100.3 KFAN, your home for Minnesota Vikings football now, extended for the next 7 years, and maybe you get the boom at noon the rest of your lives. Back after this. Aaron Jones was brought into the Minnesota Vikings to run for at least 10 yards, which would help you achieve a first down. I'm Dan Patrick. Welcome back to the 9 to noon radio show, and it's PA in charge, feasting at Buffalo Wild Wings Coon Rapids. The Sultan of Smug, David Sinykin at TC Head Cheese. That's where you find him via Twitter. Follow him as 9 to noon does, and do so right now, specifically over the weekend. And he also writes for Zone Coverage, zonecoverage.com. Last thing I have to share, and then you in charge can take it away for 5-6 minutes, is the demise of Devontae Wyatt has been greatly exaggerated. And the way I laid it out was first-round pick, nondescript with his rookie season, didn't play a ton, got better last year, but like 95 was like, okay, we're happy for you. Not this year. He's throwing people around. Ingram's had some problems at right guard at times against players like this. And Devontae Wyatt, though, with TJ Slayton and Kenny Clark, for my taste, and you know more about your juicy squad than me, that is the strength of your defense right there.
Yeah, 100%. And when Jeff Hafley was brought in as the new DC, one of the things we heard a lot about is watch Devontae Wyatt now. This new scheme is going to match what he does well. He's quick, he's aggressive, he can get after the quarterback, and he wasn't asked to do that in the Joe Barry scheme. So that's one thing we've been looking forward to is, will Devontae Wyatt emerge in season 3? And so far through 3 weeks, he has done that. Teams can't just double team Kenny Clark anymore and say, let your fun little young guys next to us try to beat us.
Yeah.
Wyatt's becoming a force. And yeah, if there is one distinct advantage from my standpoint between our two teams, it's the Green Bay defensive middle against your somewhat questionable interior offensive line.
Brandell's been good. He's big and strong.
I've heard that. But that's going to be where Green Bay is going to test you guys is Josh Jacobs right up the middle. Can you stop him? Because all this talk about I love Brian Flores. I told you that. When he was open for a new job, I hope Green Bay might take a look at him. I so respect what he does. And he will make life impossible if Malik Willis is the quarterback. But Green Bay has to run the football and try to take all those crazy looks that Flores wants to throw at you when you're 3rd and long and 2nd and long out the window. Green Bay has to run, and so far through 3 weeks, they've been the best running team in football.
Viking fans just assume that Jordan Love's going to be under center, in part because we're fatalists. You know, we just assume the Packers' best quarterback is going to be there against our team. Earlier in the show, I speculated, maybe the Packers, with the things that they've leaked out, it's been a long con. The original timetable was going to be like this week or next week for Love, and this week might still be a little bit on the early side. Are do you feel confident that Jordan Love is going to be the quarterback here?
I'm not that confident. Look, this is the most conservative medical staff I think that any NFL team has. They always take the long play rather than the short play. The fact that he was out practicing 2 weeks ago before the Colts game, at least out there, was a surprise. Then last week, leading into the game last week, he was actually out there, like, getting reps.
Wow.
Which I didn't think we'd see even until this week.
Even as limited?
As limited.
Because limited could mean that he's just doing push-ups on the Eric Stokes Memorial Field, so you never really know what limited means.
He took 25% of the reps last week, 50% this week, and the brace that he's been wearing is lighter. It's a little smaller than it was last week. I put it like 70%. I'm not sold that Love is playing.
Fair.
They've got tough game at the Rams next week. I mean, no, this is a big division game.
That is the Rams thing is there with all their injuries. That has not turned into a tough stop.
Well, they just beat the team you guys all excited about beating, the 49ers.
Well, they also had as many injuries.
I'm just saying it's a road game against a team that's supposed to be really good. So it's another important NFC game. I think we'll see him, but I'm not 100% sold at all. And I don't believe that Green Bay will beat the Vikings if Malik Willis is playing quarterback.
I agree.
If it's Love, I feel very confident. Willis facing Brian Flores.
You can't say that.
Like that.
Of what you've seen from the Vikings against Houston and San Francisco, no matter who, you can't say very confident.
I am very confident.
Really?
Well, look, Houston and San Francisco are supposed to be great teams. So far, they have not been.
Wow.
Houston struggled against the Colts. They played with their food against the Bears.
Okay.
San Francisco just lost after losing to you.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not all that we thought they would be. I didn't think Pittsburgh would be 3-0.
Yeah.
I didn't think you guys would be 3.
Yeah.
We don't know. We'll know in 3 or 4 weeks what teams really have.
Yeah, clearly we support purple and gold, and he supports purple and green, as in purple and green hairs.
The other reason about the whole Jordan Love thing, that it keeps the window open for me that he doesn't play.
Yeah.
Your team went 2-0 and Malik Willis starts. That you know were no layups that they would go 2-0 in these starts.
No, they were
There's
underdogs.
a little bit of found
teams.
money right now.
Yeah.
With and I feel like the team is still in a good spot. They could still, they probably feel like they can still win with Malik Willis potentially, and that in week 4, the worst thing that could happen would be to have Jordan Love reset the injury and have some kind of setback. That would be by way worse than a loss in taking an L in the loss column. Would be losing Jordan Love and having him reset this thing another 3 or 4 weeks.
100%. Now, my understanding is the kind of sprain he has, it is hard to re-injure that the same way. It would have to be a different injury. But you're right. It's September. Every division game's huge. But look at Green Bay last year. They were 3-6. They looked like they were dead. We all know what happened. If they fall into a 2-4, 2-5 start, they're not going to panic, and they're not going to throw guys out there if they're not 100% convinced. This guy just signed a $220 million deal.
Right.
He's going to be there for the long haul, and a September game is not that important. So, yeah, I think he'll be there, but like I say, if it is Willis, man, you guys are going to be tough to beat. I don't care. It's a much different defense than he's facing this week.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much for coming out. And
Thanks, man.
We appreciate you. I'll talk to you Monday with the border battle.
Look forward to it.
At 9 to noon, okay?
Excellent.
Hey.
Go Pack, everybody. Go Pack, go.
David Sinykin, we let him get that one in. You don't have to pay cash. We don't have to do endorsements or anything. We just let him get that in. Thank you very much for coming out today. Jared Wells, second to none as an engineer and the master mixer of the sound. Nick Madden and his street team with Abby and Krista. Round of applause for them. Paul Charchian, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm Paul Allen. Thank you for coming to the Friday Football Feast. Chat with you Sunday at noon for the Boom on your home for Minnesota Vikings football, FM 100.3 KFAN. The newly extended FM 100.3 KFAN with the radio station and the Vikings. Follow me. 7 more years. 7 more years. 7 more years. 7 more years. Now have 7 more beers and do it responsibly. God bless all of you.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.